I would like to introduce the table to you guys, starting with Cida Pessoa. As you know her very well, coordinator of the Program of Food Security and Nutritional Security, Mesa, Brazil, Sesc from Rio de Janeiro. I would like to introduce Saulo Barreto, co-founder of the IPTI, Institute for Technology Innovation Research, one of the most renowned projects in technology, social technologies from Santa Luzia do Itaim. Those who don't know, is the capital of social technology in the world. And if anyone is here to contest, if they didn't contest it, it's because it's confirmed. That's what Saulo says. I would like to introduce as well Burkhard Hoffman, the CEO of Colossal Fish. He's a German-Brazilian businessman with one of the most innovative projects when it comes to transformation and production of fish.
And I also want to introduce our friend Fernando Schwanke, who is in Costa Rica right now. And he is the director of the IICA project, which is one of the Inter-American Institutes of Agricultural Cooperation. Fernando Schwanke is a great friend of ours here at Green Rio. He's been a collaborator, he was a secretary of ours, and he has followed our activities very intensely. And today he is here with us online. Thank you for being here. I apologize for the delay. We will make up for this, and we will make up for this now with this great dialogue, this high-quality dialogue. I also want to thank Tilman Shashtik. You have already heard him over the past few days. He is representing here today the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security of Germany. He has apologized for not being here today. Apparently Lufthansa started a strike yesterday, and they have the only flight that leaves Brazil for him to get back on time. So he wanted to stay here over the weekend, but I think the ministry might not agree with that. So here I have a message of something he would have liked to communicate. That being said, I'm going to start the first round. We will not have PowerPoint presentations, so this is the big disappointment here that I have to communicate to you. But all of them have made a presentation that is on Green Rio's website. And I also, sorry, I apologize for my mistake. I'm so glad we have smart people here that can detect these errors. Excuse me, Dominique Evel from the German Society for Food and Agriculture, one of the organizations from Germany that combines innovations in institutions, social innovations, and technological innovations. So how are we going to start this dialogue? We will not have formal presentations. Each of us has already put our presentations up on the website. We will here discuss and debate the subject of food security and how it relates to innovation and technology. So I'd like to see the first chart here, the chart of integration,
colocamos pouco
where we
o tema do qual nós estamos falando. Qual?
Ainda não apareceu o chart, por enquanto.
Ainda não, mas ele aparecerá. Enquanto aparece, eu já comento pouco como nós estamos. Está aparecendo. Segurança alimentar, hoje, inovação e tecnologia, que é o tema mundial, mostra de que nós temos hoje algo como quase 8 bilhões de pessoas no mundo. Nós temos 350 mil pessoas que estão na prevalência de risco alimentar. O risco alimentar é caracterizado por baixo, médio e alto. E essa prevalência ela já vai para a mediana como para alto. E vejam, nessa proporção, o quanto nós temos de população com sobrepeso ou população obesa. Então, quando a gente fala de segurança alimentar, a gente não fala tão somente da parte da falta, mas também da qualidade de alimentação, que não é saudável. E aqui nós temos um número de óbitos, de 7.365.000 que têm falecido. E o que é mais triste nesse número internacional é que quase 3/4 desse número são crianças de 0 a 5 anos. Por semana, são 140 mil crianças que falecem por fome ou por falta de remédios que poderiam ser facilmente colocados. Os números em relação ao Brasil, nós temos a prevalência de risco alimentar, que é já a forte é de 4,1%, são os 9 milhões, sobrepeso 60%, obesa 22%, e nós temos óbitos de fome também, estão na ordem de 6.300 até agosto. Esses números nós colocamos pelo Worldometers, e a relação ela aqui pode ser verificada. Por que nós colocamos isso? Porque o tema da segurança alimentar, ela tem duas dimensões. Ela tem a dimensão do risco alimentar, e aí, no mais extremo, é a fome ou até o óbito. E quem tem fome tem pressa. A fome não pode esperar. Então, tudo que se pode fazer em relação a esse ponto tem que ser para já. E nós temos o outro lado, que é a parte da qualidade, que essa sim é um espaço de tempo maior. Por que esse painel é absolutamente privilegiado? Ele é privilegiado porque nós temos todas as dimensões que uma sociedade ou a humanidade tem. Governos, que é o Tillman. Nós temos instituições multilaterais, como é o ICA. Nós temos instituições privadas e públicas, como é o Sesc. Nós temos iniciativas exclusivamente privadas e temos um ativista da comunidade. Então, temos todas as partes envolvidas dentro da questão da segurança alimentar, envolvendo inovação e envolvendo tecnologia. Então, esse diálogo não poderia ser diferente do que explorar o máximo que essas personalidades, esses líderes, têm e experimentam e propõem. Eu quero iniciar com o Tillman, que me solicitou essa referência. O governo alemão, segundo ele, tem como objetivo o ministério dele de ter um programa de segurança alimentar não só para a Alemanha, a Europa, mas em cooperações mundiais. O segundo ponto que ele coloca dentro dessa prioridade é que essas cooperações precisam ser vistas no longo prazo. Não podem ser vistas no curto prazo. E ele me pediu para sublinhar essa questão. E um dos exemplos é a cooperação Brasil-Alemanha, que aqui o Green Rio tem celebrado, onde ele diz: iniciamos isso há 6 anos atrás, há 4 anos atrás a gente começou a trazer frutos, e hoje, quando vocês viram que eles demonstraram e o que demonstram, são frutos claros de uma cooperação de persistência, de perseverança e de resiliência. Então ele frisa isso e diz que os resultados ele vai ver depois no vídeo e vai estar muito entusiasmado para poder continuar essa cooperação e estimula nós a pensarmos no longo prazo e não só no curtíssimo prazo. Colocado isso, eu queria passar a palavra ao Fernando Schwanke para fazer suas primeiras considerações. Fernando, como a gente tinha combinado, seria um primeiro relato daquilo que o ICA se propõe a fazer e como você está se posicionando. Mais uma vez, muito bem-vindo e desculpa o atraso.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. Bia, Ingo, and all my colleagues
de bancada. E primeiro dizer que o IICA, que é o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura, nós fazemos parte do sistema interamericano, que é
Inter-American system that is led by the Organization of the Inter-American States, and we are the branch that works with agriculture for the Americas and the Caribbean. Our focus, of course, is this technical cooperation for agriculture. And I have witnessed and I can certify that we are working very closely with this subject of food security. We recently, like 30 days ago, had a meeting with the Executive Council, the Ministries of Agriculture here in Costa Rica, and we discussed this subject because it has an impact on agriculture, and that also has an impact on other elements of this chain. So food security is not something new, but it became a more serious issue right now because of some problems, some structural problems.
A gente pode citar primeiro a pandemia, né, que impactou as cadeias produtivas como um todo. Depois da pandemia, a guerra, Ucrânia, a invasão da Rússia na Ucrânia, e nós temos um terceiro fator que vem afetando bastante o tema da produção de alimentos, que são as secas que estão ocorrendo nos diversos continentes. A Europa agora passa por uma seca enorme, os Estados Unidos por uma seca enorme, e nós, na América do Sul, passamos por uma seca gigante no ano passado, que impactou muito fortemente a produção de alimentos no sul da América do Sul. Esses três fatores são causas importantes dessa desestruturação e do aumento de preços dos alimentos em nível mundial. Além disso, nós temos que lembrar que a Rússia e a Ucrânia junto exportam quase 30% do trigo mundial, quase 20% do milho mundial e quase 80% do óleo de girassol. E eu vou encerrar essa minha primeira parte para depois aprofundar um pouquinho, Ingo, com relação a onde esse conflito e essas questões têm impactado em alguns canais de transmissão que têm chegado nesse tema. Primeiro, um tema de restrição de comércio de alimentos mundial. Isso acaba impactando preços de alimentos e oferta de alimentos. O segundo item importante, o comércio e o preço de fertilizantes. Nós tivemos um aumento de quase 300% no custo dos fertilizantes nos últimos 2 anos. Isso impactou o aumento acelerado do preço das commodities, que aumentou o preço dos alimentos, e, além disso, o aumento do preço da energia. Bom, na minha próxima intervenção eu vou tentar entrar um pouco em cada um desses 4 canais de transmissão, né, que tem impactado o tema de preços de alimentos e, por outro lado, a queda de renda da população, que acaba tendo mais dificuldades de acessar, né, esses alimentos, o que agrava o tema da inseguridade alimentar. Isso é uma corrente, né, que uma coisa acaba impactando a outra. Obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Fernando. Te agradeço muito por essa introdução. Já abriu o leque. E muito obrigado também por ser sucinto e usar o poder de síntese. I would invite Dominique Ewald, if you can make a short introduction about the issues, what you are working for in the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. Please, Ewald.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and that I can be today apart from this nice panel. And yeah, for me was the same problem like for Tillmann. I get also the pilot strike and my flight end in Munich. So that's why I'm today not in Rio. Thank you for this, but have fun, guys. Yeah, the Fraunhofer. We have built up a really new department while we were seeing, okay, the questions get more and more complex to develop technology into the market. And especially when we see in the biogenic value creation, that they're coming up with many, many problems where one department or one institute alone can handle not anymore these kind of questions and to create the technology alone. This we connected to smart farming, where we were saying, okay, the digitalization is a nice tool to track the biogenic value change and also generate answers for the value change. Here we are connected to many different kind of institutes from the Fraunhofer. Once, of course, you see it in the background, the Fraunhofer EGB in Rostock. On the table comes for other institutes, the EGP, the ESS, the EYY, and the EMFT, which are located in MacPom. It's on the Baltic Sea in Germany, and the other two institutes from Bavaria. So when you look in this kind of approach, in this holistic approach, you see there are many questions which are coming up when you look in the value chains. Firstly, you have the farming side connected to the customers, and then you see there are different kind of types of stakeholders where you need to nail it, okay, what kind of technical questions they have. So the farmer, of course, the farmer production, manufacturing, the retail part, and the customer. And here you have different kind of data flow and different kind of question how you can create data for the stakeholders and how deep the data can go inside, for example, interesting for the politics, for the logistic, for the banking side, for the research side, of course. And this kind of approach was for us to say, okay, we need to bring here different kind of institutes on the table, which have a different kind of mindset to answer this kind of question and to create technologies for the society and end of the day also, of course, for the business. And we have here different kind of examples in my presentation. One of the examples that is also where I have the division lead is, for example, livestock. One of the questions, for example, in Europe is also how you can track animal welfare, and how you can create here different type of answers to track them and also to bring them to the customer. Well, this end of the day brings us a big plus in retail market. And here we have many, many different kind of technologies which we was developing. Of course, firstly, it's important to create a data plot. There you need to do different kind of skills. Firstly, of course, you need to find the sensors for this. You need to visualize and analyze this kind of data. You need to build up platforms. You need to build up a data structure. And end of the day, you need to market this, for example, in a digital twin. All these kinds of technologies we bring now on a table, and create them from this one platform where we can interact to different kind of stakeholders, create answers here to the industry, to the farmers, and to the customers, and create this kind of question which they want to have. I think it's for the beginning a small introduction what we are doing. Of course, we have a really big interest upside from the livestock, also to create these answers for the agriculture sector, mariculture sector, agriculture sector, where we also closely connected to Burkhardt, for example, to bring this technology to the farmers, generate this kind of data, and connect them to the industry partners, which have the most interest sometimes on this kind of data, for example, the biomass side, the feeding side, and so on, and everything you can connect in real time, and that is something that we create.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for your introduction. And I think what you put on a discussion forum is highly interesting in the channel view and also in the smart form, how to innovate in this channel. Thank you so much. Agora eu queria passar a palavra a Cida para nos dar uma breve introdução. A Cida é uma liderança na parte do movimento de nutricional Mesa Brasil na Sesc, aqui no Rio de Janeiro. Então, é uma instituição onde tem o setor privado, tem uma questão estrutural da sociedade e a proposta muito direta dela. Por favor, Cida, se você puder se introduzir. Obrigado.
Boa tarde a todos. Para a gente é uma honra estar participando dessa mesa, Bia. Obrigada pelo convite, de poder estar trazendo para vocês um pouco da nossa experiência, né? Nós somos parte de uma rede de banco de alimentos, hoje a maior rede de banco de alimentos da América Latina. Nós somos hoje em torno de 82 bancos de alimentos em todos os estados do Brasil. E, recentemente, o IFEC, que é o Instituto Fecomércio de Pesquisas e Análises, fez para a gente uma pesquisa que comprova muito o que o Ingo colocou logo no início,
proves what Ingo said at first about the Rio de Janeiro population, proving the efficacy and efficiency of our work. There was a correlation between hunger and poverty and food insecurity completely connected to access and not having the conditions to acquire the food. And research also revealed that most people are connected with some Social Security aid from the government, and then depending on them sometimes for the survival of the whole family. And it also proved that children up to 18 years old and the elderly would be the most vulnerable members of the families for food security, because they don't consume 3 times a day a meal. They have no access to 3 meals per day, which would be the level of food insecurity considered as serious, because we know that there is no guarantee even for 1 meal. Sometimes the Mesa Brasil brings food that is proper for consumption and donates to these institutions food that would be discarded. Since 2018, we've released a project called Mesa no Campo, where we take the food that is proper for consumption, but because it was planted, but they have nobody to sell to, so it stays in the countryside, and the agriculturer basically goes over with a bulldozer and smashes it. So we proposed to harvest this to donate to the Mesa Brasil project, and so we've been doing that, which is around Nova Friburgo region in Rio de Janeiro, only from one association where we know that there are over 200 associations in the country that could be a part of this program. And each harvest we take about 10 tons of food. So it's a lot of food that is left without a proper destination, food that is proper, is ready to be consumed, and that would make a difference in the lives of the people who receive this food. These institutions are all registered. They have a very good technical team of social assistants and social workers. And this research came, as I said in another table, it's very important sometimes to mention the obvious, because people sometimes need to be sure and be not conform that something like this should not be happening, but it still does. And we see that here in Rio de Janeiro, population has impoverished. And so with the pandemic, we needed to be fast and act quickly.
inovamos a nossa cesta de hortifrutis.
So we
Onde a
innovated
gente
our
recolhia esse alimento do
vegetable
campo, porque
garden
estava todo
because
mundo nas
we
suas
used to
casas,
take
mas as pessoas
all the
precisavam se
food,
alimentar.
and these people
E nós
needed
criamos
food,
então
and we
essa cesta de
created
hortifrutis
so
que foram
this
doadas não só para as
vegetable
instituições, mas
baskets that
também
were
para as
donated not
famílias
only for the institutions but
assistidas
to the
pelo
families
programa.
that were
Então,
part
assim,
of the
fui bem
program. So
rápida,
I was
tentei
extremely brief to try to
resumir
be
pouco o
as
trabalho e estou aqui, Bia, para as
brief as
perguntas e
possible.
tudo
I'm
mais que eu
open
puder
to
colaborar.
questions and anything else that I can contribute with.
Muitíssimo obrigado, Cida, por sua introdução.
Thank you, Cida,
ao
for your
tema.
introduction to the
A gente
topic.
percebe
And now we can
que
see here
a
very
colocação é
clearly that
curtíssimo prazo,
that's a
atender
short term
a
to
dor da
take care
fome
of the
dentro das
pain of
possibilidades
hunger
que
within the
existem
possibilities
numa
that exist
circunstância
in a
onde a gente
circumstance
tem a
where
grande cidade.
we
Quero
have the
passar a palavra
capacity
ao
to do
Saulo.
so for big
Saulo
cities.
é
I would like to pass the word now to
chamei ele há
Saulo.
pouco
I
tempo
called
atrás,
him, he's
visionário
a
de
visionary
tecnologias sociais.
for social
E ele,
technologies.
com uma indignação
Because of
profunda
a
pessoal,
deep
se dedicou
personal
a dos,
indignation, he decided to
municípios mais
dedicate
pobres
to the
do Sergipe
most
para fazer
impoverished
uma transformação.
municipalities in Sergipe
Isso já hoje
to transform them. And now
não é só um modelo,
it's not
não
just
é
a
só
model,
uma
it's not just an
iniciativa, mas está em
initiative, but
mais
it
de
is
30 municípios
in more
diferentes
than
em vários
30
estados.
different municipalities in over 30
muitas
states and over
pessoas,
several states,
e eu
and
queria que ele
it's
fizesse a
touching the
introdução,
lives of a lot of people, and I would like him to introduce this project.
Obrigado. Novamente, obrigado,
Thank
Bia e
you,
Ingo,
thank you,
pelo convite.
Bia
É
and
prazer
Ingo,
estar
for the
aqui.
invitation. It's great to be here
Realmente,
with
eu
you
moro na
guys.
capital
I
mundial das
live in
tecnologias
the world
sociais, que se chama Santa
capital
Luzia do Itaim, no
called
sul do Sergipe.
Santa
Esse
Luzia
título
do
foi eu mesmo
Itaim.
que dei,
This was the
mas como já
title
faz
that I
mais
gave
de um ano e
myself,
ninguém
but
contestou, ele
nobody
continua
contested.
valendo.
It still
E, enfim,
holds.
o que a gente
And
fez há
so
12 anos atrás, o IPT já
what we
tem 20
did,
anos.
IPT
Eu sou
has
sergipano,
about
tá? Só para
20
esclarecer.
years.
Isso me dá um certo grau
I'm
de
from
exclusividade.
Sergipe, and this
Eu acho
gives
que a maior
me
parte de vocês
a
não tem.
degree of exclusivity
Mas
that you guys
o
don't have.
IPT tem 20 anos, mas há 12 anos atrás
We
ele se
have
mudou de São Paulo para
We're
Santa
20
Luzia do
years
Itaim,
old, but
com o
we
intuito de
moved to São
criar
Paulo with the idea to
baseado na
create a
comunidade,
model based on
em que a gente
community
possa reverter o
that we
problema
can
da perpetuação
revert
da pobreza a partir da
the
potência da
perpetration of
comunidade.
poverty
O
to
IPTI, eu
the
brinco sempre que
potency
não faz
of the
nada. A única
communities.
coisa que a
IPT
gente
does
faz é
not do
revelar o
anything.
potencial
We reveal the
criativo e transformador
potential, the
das pessoas
transformational
que
potential
existem em todos os
that
lugares.
exists
E
everywhere.
aí dá uma roupagem,
And
fazendo
it
com que eles
gives
se
a
tornem
little
empreendedores dos próprios
makeup
destinos.
so that they can
O Oscar
entrepreneur
falou
and be the
recentemente sobre
owners of their own
utopia.
fate.
E eu gosto de
So
chamar que a gente faz utopia,
I like
só que
to say
utopia
that we
pragmática,
make
né?
pragmatic
Então, a gente tá
utopia a
realizando isso de
reality,
fato.
and we are
E o
actually
que me
making it
conecta de alguma
a
maneira
reality. What connects me
a esse painel
to
hoje,
this
que é um
panel,
privilégio estar aqui,
which is a privilege,
porque é o seguinte,
is because
a nossa visão
our
de você
vision
quebrar um problema da
to break
perpetuação da
the
pobreza
perpetration of
passa
poverty
desde a primeira infância,
starts
por uma
from the
educação infantil, por uma
early
alfabetização,
childhood
e por uma
to
visão empreendedora
the
para o adolescente, porque
early
para que ele não tenha
the
que sair da
elementary
sua
school,
comunidade
so that
e possa
and
empreender
entrepreneurs, so
localmente,
that they
mas
can be
atuando
entrepreneurs
globalmente.
locally. They don't
Mas
have
para
to
que tudo
leave
isso
their
aconteça, é preciso
communities.
que você tenha
But for that to
essa
happen,
condição
you
de
need to
base.
have
Então, você não
basic
pode estar desnutrido,
health.
você não
You
pode ter
cannot
visual,
be
esse
malnourished. You
Então, o que
cannot
me traz
be
aqui esse painel
hungry. You need,
um
what
projeto
brings me
que
here is a
está desenvolvido
project
desde
that
o ano passado, mas
we've
que
been
ele se
developing
baseia em
since
duas
last year that is
tecnologias
based
sociais
on
anteriores
two
do IPTI.
social technologies
Um é o
previous
software
that
TAG,
precede
a gente criou
IPTI.
sistema de gestão
We
para
created a
escolas,
management
que
system
por
for
sua vez
school
também monitora a
that's
parte da
also
saúde,
monitoring part of
e o
self-health,
HP, que é uma
and the
tecnologia social de
HB, which
combate
is
à
a social
anemia ferropriva
technology
nas escolas. A
to
anemia
combat
ferropriva é a maior doença nutricional do mundo.
some forms of
E afeta mais de
anemia,
25% da
and it
sociedade
affects
do Brasil.
over
Então,
25%
como eu tenho
of
sistema de
the
gestão
children
com
in the southern hemisphere.
banco de dados,
So I have a problem
eu
with
tenho,
the
por outro lado, uma
database,
tecnologia social que me
and
permite
it's
avaliar
social technology that
nutrição,
allows me
obesidade,
to
anemia.
evaluate
Eu tenho
anemia,
histórico também dos
malnutrition,
alunos.
and
A gente começou a
obesity.
desenvolver esse ano
I
o
had
NHAM,
the
que
NHAM
é a
program,
sigla do
which was
NHAM, mas na
is the
verdade tem um
NHAM
nome em
NHAM, but it's
inglês.
actually there's a
E o
name in
NHAM é uma
English for that. And
conexão
NHAM
entre a merenda
is
escolar
a
e a
connection
agricultura
between
familiar.
school
Mas usando
catering
data
services
science
and
para
the
que você, de
family
fato, não apenas
agriculture, using
distribua
data
comida, como
science
foi
not
falado
only
aqui,
to just give
mas você
food
distribui,
to the
você dê a
schools,
alimentação
but
da
also
maneira que as
giving
pessoas
food
precisam
the way
para
that people
garantir uma
need
boa
to
alimentação, uma segurança
ensure
alimentar. Pensando
food
muito forte
security,
nesse caso,
thinking
para
very
crianças e
strongly about
adolescentes.
this for
Então,
children and
diferente um pouco
adolescents.
da emergência
a little different from the emergency, which is emergency care. People are hungry today, they need food today. We work for that so that all children have a good development looking at the future. And so we're going to go deeper into the details further later on in the presentation. Thank you, Saldo. Thank you for having this power to make such a complex issue brief. And now we're going to the entrepreneur and innovator side, which is looking for technologies that are completely different. I'd like to give the floor now to
Fazer a sua introdução, por favor.
Udgar to give his introduction. Bia, eu gostaria de dizer, o peixe sempre foi recurso muito importante para pessoas pobres em países em
It's a
desenvolvimento.
part of the food security, and if we want to resolve this issue regarding hunger and food security, we need to have new and sustainable solutions, because up till now we don't have such huge amount of resources of the fish in the Atlantics or in the environment, as we have overfishing, if we have air pollutions and water pollutions. So what we need is, and we want to feed the world, is need to have solutions. Agriculture is one of these important animal protein resource for pure and developing countries. So to have a fish grow which is innovative and effective, like RUS systems, so recycling agua systems, which allow us to produce fishes in the area what is needed. For instance, in growing cities and where the biggest demand is for having fish. Also, the new technologies, they are bringing new opportunities for small and mid-sized farmers to be part of the new social structuring and creating new jobs. I think it is important to install this kind of systems in the kind of for the food security, and innovations needs to create jobs, and jobs needs to be created to aliment all the peoples in the needed areas and the poor areas and developing countries as well.
Thank you very much for your introduction and also for your fantastic time management. Thank you. Until now you won the round. Eu queria olhar nessa
So I
segunda
wanted to look at,
rodada.
during the second round, I want to look at the following thing here. When we started these presentations, we had IICA's quick presentation, then Fraunhofer, that are institutions that look at governments and these relationships. However, I want to look at this from back to front, thinking first of the short term, because those who are hungry are dealing with something very urgent. So, Cida, based on your experience in your projects, the experience you have had over the past few months, and looking at the numbers that we have, all of these numbers are huge. How could you visualize work like yours or somebody else's work to accelerate this fight against hunger? So what we usually say at Mesa is that each one of these numbers is a social security number, it's a person. And this is urgent. Many initiatives actually end before they even get started. So we have the project table in the field, Mesa no Campo, that could become a public policy. We have spoken about this for some time with Bia with the Sesc, because we have reached a moment, we have reached a situation in which we have realized that no numbers can actually measure these losses. For example, we have foods that can be consumed, but when we choose what we want to buy, that actually makes the food more expensive. For example, not all of the apples are going to be the same, not all of the oranges are going to have the same size, but these foods are presented in this way. And
que não tem para quem
this
vender,
this also involves lack of access,
Às vezes o
absurd
agricultor prefere não
prices.
vender,
Sometimes the
naquele
agricultural
preço tão baixo.
producers
E aí ele
prefer
joga
not to
fora.
sell than to
Então,
sell at a
eu
low
acho que
price,
se
and so
mais
they end up
iniciativas
throwing
como
food
essa,
away.
ou
So I think that
eu
some
acredito que nem
initiatives
questão
like
de mais
this one,
iniciativas, é unir
and maybe it's not just
forças.
about
Se
initiatives,
eu
it's
já faço o
about
meu trabalho,
joining
eu já
efforts.
tenho uma estrutura, porque eu não vou
I
me
do my
associar com
job, I
uma
have a
outra
structure,
força
so
também pra
why
gente
can I
poder
not start a
alavancar, ao invés de
partnership
começar tudo do zero, né?
so
Então eu já
we
tenho
can
Mesa
boost
Brasil, eu
these
já tenho
initiatives
Mesa
and
no
not
campo, eu já
start from
tenho
zero? I already have
uma
Mesa
frota de
Brasil, I have Mesa
caminhões
no
que
Campo, I have a
circulam, meus
fleet
parceiros
of
de recolhimento,
trucks
eu já tenho uma
that
infraestrutura.
can pick up the
Eu não preciso
food. I
reinventar
have an
nada.
infrastructure. I don't need to
Fazendo uma
start from
pergunta
zero.
direta.
So a
O
direct
Sesc
question here.
está espalhado no
The
Brasil
Sesc
inteiro.
is present all over Brazil.
Essa ação está no Brasil inteiro.
Is
Sim,
this
nós somos
action
a
all
maior
over
rede de
Brazil?
banco de
Yes, we
alimentos
are
da
the
América Latina.
biggest
Nós
food
trabalhamos em
bank
rede.
in Latin
Todas
America,
as
and
capitais
we
do
work as a
Brasil
network.
têm
All of the
Mesa Brasil. E
capitals in
algumas
Brazil
também
have Mesa
pessoas,
Brasil,
com seus postos
and some of
avançados
them
em
with
outras
their more
cidades.
advanced units in other
Muitíssimo obrigado.
cities. Thank you so
Saulo.
much.
Como a gente ouviu,
Saulo,
já existe uma rede
as we have
assim,
heard, there is already a
que, de
network,
certa
let's
maneira,
say, that
está
in a
alocado
way
nas grandes cidades.
is
Você
concentrated
pegou
in big
uma das
cities.
comunidades
So,
mais pobres
You
de
have
Sergipe.
worked with one of the
começou a
poorest
trabalhar
communities in Sergipe,
naquela
and you
base,
started working at that base
Inovação tecnológica. E
and
começou a
started working
trabalhar
with
para
technological
sair de
innovation
Santa
there and
Luzia
started
para
working
outros municípios.
with other municipalities as well. So based on that experience, how do you look at this
Existe uma
urgency?
possibilidade de
Is
acelerar
there a
e
possibility
cortar
to
caminhos com
speed this up?
esse seu modelo?
Do we have any
ou só
shortcuts
no
here
longo
with your
prazo?
model?
Não, só no longo prazo.
No, we are
Eu acho
looking
que,
at something
diferente do
long term
trabalho
here. I think
que é
that
feito,
differently from the work that is done that
a gente também tem
deals
que
with
olhar
this
pra transformação.
emergency, we need to
E
look at
transformação tem uma série de
transformation.
questões que são fundamentais.
And
Primeiro, a
transformation has
transformação social
many
só acontece quando a comunidade é
essential
protagonista.
issues
Para isso, você
involved.
precisa formar capital
Society
humano.
needs
As
to
pessoas
be a
precisam começar a
protagonist. We
criar
need
algo
to
que elas nem
form
sabem
human
direito o que é.
capital. People need to create what they don't even know
Para
exists.
você fazer isso em escala,
And
você
to
precisa
do
de
this,
pessoas
to
com
scale
esse
this
capital
up, you
humano
need
e
people
essa
with this
visão
human
ética de
capital
sociedade
and
para
this
espalhar
ethical
isso
vision of a
pro
society
resto do
to
Brasil e do mundo.
disseminate this
Então
to
é
the rest
preciso,
of
eu digo
Brazil and
sempre,
the
é preciso ter
world.
urgência, mas não pode ter pressa.
So yes, this
Os
is urgent,
atalhos é você matar os
but we can't
projetos
look
no
for
berço
shortcuts.
deles.
We
Por mais
can't
que você possa chegar
rush
longe,
this
ele vai durar
process
apenas enquanto você
because we
estiver
might
colocando a
make
sua energia
strides,
financeira ou
but
pessoal.
they will
Então,
only
no nosso
last
caso, na segurança alimentar,
for
a gente
as
lida
long
com
as
algumas
your
questões. Primeiro, não sei se vocês
personal
sabem,
energy
mas o valor
lasts.
passado por dia para a merenda escolar
So
do
I don't know
aluno
if you
do
know
fundamental é
about
de 36
this,
centavos.
but the
Imagine
school
vocês com
meals
16 centavos para
here
almoçar.
in
É até
Brazil
engraçado porque o
cost
domingo,
36
o
cents, so
Temer fez uma
36
celebração porque
cents
aumentou
for
em
lunch.
20% o valor da merenda escolar,
And
aumentou de 30
President
para 36.
Temer,
E chamou todos os governadores dos estados
he
para ir para essa
celebrated
cerimônia
that
fantástica de
this
celebração.
price had
Por
increased
outro lado,
and he
eu tenho por natureza
organized
ser
a
anarquista. Né? Eu
celebration
olho
for
sempre
this.
para o Brasil
I
como nós
have
somos uma
a bit
sociedade
of an
muito fraca.
anarchist
Eu
perception
sonho com um país
because
sem governo.
our
Que não quer dizer
society
país
is
desgovernado, porque a gente
weak,
já tem há
so
algum
sometimes I
tempo.
dream of a country without a government. Actually, we haven't had a government for some time, and so society needs to take on its role in this process. I like this idea of creating networks, initiatives in which people get together
De novo, isso parece utopia,
to
mas é
work
utopia pragmática.
for these collective causes.
Tem uma rede de professores
Yes,
para
it sounds like utopia, but it's a kind of pragmatic utopia. Today we have a network of professors that started with 4 people and now it involves 1,000 professors around Brazil. So we need to consider that in these communities and in neighborhoods, these school meals are the main meal of that children. It is the opportunity for them to obtain the food they need to develop. And we also need to consider that the families, and this is not just about those who are at the base of the pyramid, this is a cultural issue. We do not eat well. So these people, for example, who make these school meals, they have low self-esteem because they don't feel valued. They need to be empowered and feel like they are an agent of this transformation. we need to understand that if these agents, for example, we have our part of technology using AI, these can all be partners in this process, and at the same time, build a reputation that can make this product more competitive and more accessible to society. So we need to bring value to a collective cause. That is what we work with. Okay, yes, it's utopic, but I think it's an all or nothing situation here. I always need to make some comments here. So as you heard, Saulo was using technical terms here. Okay, I'll come back to you in a minute, all right? I think things are going to get very interesting now. Fernando. So, I think that you had a fantastic experience looking especially at the small agricultural producer, family agriculture, the cooperatives that you valued when you were secretary, and now you are at the IICA. You are in the middle of Central America, smaller countries, complex communities that are not easy. And you are launching a program. So could you talk a little bit about about experience, the base experience, just like Cida and Saulo have done? How do you, as let's say, a manager, an administrator, how do you perceive these initiatives, and what kind of joint initiatives do you see as
Obrigado, Ingo, pela
possibilities?
pergunta.
Thank
Parabéns
you,
aí a
Ingo,
Cida
for
e ao
your
Saulo.
question. Congratulations
Bom, primeiro
to Cida and Saulo. First of
fortalecendo
all,
as cadeias curtas
we
de
need
alimentos.
to strengthen the
Isso
short
a
food
pandemia
chains, and the pandemic
O
has
consumidor, ele quer
boosted this.
os alimentos
The
frescos,
consumer wants
principalmente,
fresh
que
food,
estejam mais cerca de si e que
and
saiba de onde estão
they want to
vindo.
know where this food is
Então,
coming
isso
from.
pode muito bem ser feito
So
pela
this
agricultura
can be
familiar do nosso
done
país.
through the family
E dos
agriculture
países
of
da
our
América
country
como
and of
todo,
the countries
Até
in the
porque,
Americas as a whole.
nós temos a maioria
Because
dos agricultores
we
no
have
Brasil e nas Américas. No Brasil
most
são 80%
agricultural
de pequenos
producers in
agricultores.
the Americas and in Brazil are about 80% small agricultural producers. We have small properties, and about 1.5 million of them produce 92% of what is produced in family agriculture. So fruits, coffee, manioc, these products,
vamos dizer assim, que sejam mais rápidos para
to
poder se
have
produzir
them
suínos,
be
aves
produced more
no sul do
quickly.
Brasil.
Pork and poultry in the south of Brazil, for example.
Chegar mais perto.
So
E aí a
this is
inovação
something, and then innovation in terms of market logistics can have an essential role to bring these agricultural producers closer to trade and reducing intermediaries. So we have discussed this at the ministry, if you have Uber Eats app for family agriculture to strengthen these chains and get closer to them and have cheaper food for the consumer. I think that's essential. And these agricultural producers need to organize themselves through cooperatives, and this has really grown in Brazil over the past 15 years, but it has been present in our country for more than a century. But through the professionalization of the cooperatives, we really saw a huge boost, and these cooperatives now represent 4% of the Brazilian GDP. So this is important. And just to finish up here, and I think Cida would agree here, we need to reduce waste. We can't just lose 30% of what we produce. So crisis produces opportunities, and the crisis we are living now is a great opportunity
na produção de alimentos e
to
no
put
mercado,
innovation into the production of foods and in the market, and to take innovation and use this to reduce waste. We cannot accept that a country like ours loses what it does in foods every year. Thank you so much,
Eu
Fernando.
volto à questão para Cida.
So now, Cida,
Eu gostaria que você
I'd like you
comentasse.
to comment on this, please.
Concordo plenamente.
I
que
agree
desperdício,
completely.
não
Waste
só na nossa casa como no
is
campo,
not only
mas
in our
o que eu
homes,
gostaria
it
de
happens in
complementar, e
the
até
countryside
respondendo
as
aqui o
well.
Saulo,
And
Mesa
just to
Brasil
answer
tem,
what Saulo said,
viés
Brazil
emergencial, mas
has
também
this
tem viés
emergency,
educativo.
but
Então, a
also we are
gente,
dealing with an
nós fazemos
educational
ações
issue here.
constantes com as cozinheiras
So we
das
conduct
instituições que
constant
recebem as nossas
actions with the
doações.
institutions,
E nós
with the
recebemos
cooks and the
durante muitos
institutions
anos,
that
já tem
receive
mais
our
de 10 anos,
donations.
nós
And
recebemos
for more than
alimentos
10 years, we have received foods from
que agora
Family
é o Programa
Agriculture
Alimenta Brasil.
through PA, which is now the
o que que a
program
gente
Alimenta
entende? Que essa
Brasil.
cozinheira, ela precisa entender
So these cooks, they
como
need
que
to
ela
understand
vai,
how
fazer
they
esse alimento, como ela
will
vai servir esse alimento.
serve
E
this
como nós
food.
recebemos, às vezes, uma
And
quantidade muito grande do
sometimes we
mesmo
receive
alimento,
a lot of the
então nós
same
criamos,
food.
um
So we
projeto
created a
chamado Redes
project
Gastronômicas,
called
onde a
the
gente convida um
Gastronomical
chefe para dar
Network,
aula
where
para as
we invited
cozinheiras. E ali
a chef
elas,
to
no
give
final
classes
dessa
to
aula,
these
precisam
cooks.
usar as
And at the
técnicas
end of these classes, they need to use the
gastronomia
techniques that
e
they
precisam
learned
também usar a sua
and
criatividade
use
criando
their
uma receita nova, não
creativity
receita
to
do
make a
Google,
new
mas uma
recipe,
receita
not the
dela.
Google
E normalmente
recipe,
ela vem
but
com uma receita
her
que
own or his
ela
own
faz há muito
recipe.
tempo, que passou de
And many
mãe para
times
filha,
they
de
have their
avó para filha.
traditional
E aí a gente tem
recipes
todo
that they learned
resgate
from
da
their
cultura
mothers.
alimentar.
And so
E
here we're
também de
speaking
falar para
about
essa,
food
para
culture
as
as
pessoas
well.
sobre, hoje em dia,
And
sobre
we
as
need to
plantas,
talk to
os
people
alimentos que estão às
about
vezes
the
no nosso quintal.
foods that
Então a gente
sometimes we
incentiva
have in
essa
our
criação de
backyards.
receitas e também
So
dá dignidade
we
à
want to think
mesa.
about these
Porque todo
recipes and
mundo
also
quer
bring
poder
dignity to the
sentar
table
numa
because
mesa
everyone
bacana e
wants to
comer
sit at a
alimento
nice
preparado,
table
nutritivo,
and
saudável
eat
e
a
bonito.
nutritional,
Então
healthy,
a Mesa
and
também
beautiful
tem esse
food.
trabalho
So Mesa also conducts this work.
Ótimo, muito obrigado, Cida.
Great, thank you very
Eu
much,
queria explorar
Cida.
pouco a nossa líder
I would
do
like
meu
to
lado
instigate
esquerdo
our leader a little bit to the left
e
or to the right.
queria
I
perguntar
would like to
para
ask
a Bia, você
Bia,
teve e
did
tem
you
uma
have or
experiência
do you have
extraordinária com a parte
you have
dos
a
orgânicos,
great
que em geral são
experience with the organic foods, which are
menores,
smaller
especializados
farmers,
e muitas
specialized,
vezes
and sometimes
em torno das cidades ou
around
das grandes metrópoles.
great
Como é
metropolitan
que
areas.
você interagiria nesse tema? com
How
a
would you
experiência?
interact with this in this topic with food security?
Bom, muito obrigado, Ingo,
Thank you
por
very much
colocar essa
for
pergunta.
putting this question to me,
O
Ingo.
Brasil é o único país do
Brazil is the
mundo
only
que tem uma
country
lei,
in
eu
the
sei que
world that has a law. I know that there's very small value, but there is a law that 30% of the food from the schools should be organic. No country in the world has such a law. And unfortunately, not even all municipalities can afford or can comply with this law, but this is by itself a differential that should be publicized.
Endosso tudo que
And I stand behind everything that Cida said,
Parabenizo
and I
pela faz,
congratulate
eu sou
her for her great work. I'm a fan of
E
hers.
fiquei encantado,
And I
eu
was,
preciso registrar isso.
you know, I was very pleased
Eu preciso registrar que eu estou encantada com o trabalho que o
with
Saulo
the
faz.
work that
Parabéns.
Saulo does. Saulo,
Merece
congratulations. You
mundial.
deserve the world title that you've given yourself.
E eu acho que a questão da
And I
alimentação
think
escolar,
that the
inclusive, isso será,
matter
Saulo,
of
se
school
você tiver
catering
aqui,
services, if you are
tema aqui no
here,
auditório amanhã de manhã.
tomorrow morning in the auditorium, there's going to be how it can be a transformative. FAO wants to do an event like this for next year.
E a
And
merendeira merece ter
people who cook these foods
reconhecimento de
need
chefe
to
de
have
escola.
a
Isso
school
nós
chef
tivemos
diploma
uma
or some
experiência
kind.
que infelizmente me frustrou muito, que nós fizemos um trabalho
We
junto com o
did
Sebrae, com as
work with Sebrae
2 anos
during 2
de
years,
capacitação de merendeira e que a merendeira
building
tivesse
capacities for the
reconhecimento na
cooks,
carteira de
school
trabalho
cooks,
como merendeira. Muitas
because they
vezes
should be called
ela
school cooks, because sometimes
atende como se
they
fosse uma
are
faxineira,
as though a janitor or something like that, with all the respect to janitors, but it's not what she does. So for her to have a registration that recognizes what she actually does, and there was a training and they received a diploma for that, and I can't forget the emotion. Rosa was there when the school cooks came here to get this diploma from the Ministry of Health and from the Ministry of Education. Their families were here and they were extremely emotional. They came here singing Cidade Maravilhosa, a theme song for Rio de Janeiro. They came from other cities as well, like Itaperuna. It was one of the greatest days in my life. What was the greatest emotion in life? Obviously, the birth of my children and grandchildren, but one of them for sure is going to be that moment when I saw them coming into the Marina da Glória. Why do I say it was a frustration? Because it was an interrupted project. The dignity that Saulo spoke about and that Cida always mentions, and Karina as well, dignity that should be given to them, should be to give dignifying status to them for the wonderful work that they do. Thank you for this statement. This is amazing. Thank you.
Antes de passar a palavra ao Dominique,
now I'm going to send the word to give the floor to Dominique, and we're going to talk about an important issue regarding innovation. I'd like, Saulo, for you to explore a little bit more this part of innovation. I think that what you are developing in the terms of innovation, how did you deal with the need for school, which is a demand that is structured in a system where even the agriculture is going to notice that you use the technologies to include people. Here, Oscar Metsava was that Saulo does a project with them, with the youth, that to present products in New York. So talk a little bit about this technology and innovation. Get ready, Dominic, because I'm going to pass the ball to you later. What we have today in terms of technology, I spoke briefly about it. We have a management system that allows us to monitor the entry and exit of schools, and I think for food, and where the gender, age for the students, for the HB, I can have weight and height and hemoglobin rates, but for the parents and family health, I probably can get the family history for diabetes and hypertension, high blood pressure. And we created an online presence system. Not everything can be online, but it's called Cortex. It's not necessarily, it's a workaround, but you know, when the school cook knows the students that went to the school and what are the groups of food that they need to prepare in order to take care of the nutritional needs of these specific groups. On the other hand, for the stock control and consumption, we can also let the family agriculture know they work because they're illiterate, so they don't have the interface, but they can also plant the plantings and there is a directive for agriculture to be purchased by the government. So from the app, they're going to be able to sell their products to the municipality. Just so you can have an idea, it's about 40,000 reais that they can sell per year with no public bid required. Of course, the cooperation association don't have that limit, but it's nice for them to be able to sell individually so that the product that they supply to that school can also, be sent back to him, showing that the food security in the school was improved. The first idea is to use for people to engage and to participate strongly. Without information, everything is subjective. And looking from a different perspective to use technology, I'm going to talk about iFood. I don't like iFood because I have to think about the motor boy that is exploited by them, but let's think about a platform for direct commercialization for the agriculturers associated with a food security value at schools. I adopted the school chef. Sorry, I'm going to steal the idea for you. I was crazy when I heard it here. It blew my mind. But technology came in order to allow that the school cook and the managers can make decisions based on evidence, and the agriculture can also make plans on the sowing of the seeds based on evidence. He's also building a training and workshop new techniques and not only organic agriculture but biodynamic, so that they can actually add value to their production, eliminate the intermediaries so that they can access the more competitively the final market and final consumer. And technology has this role because solution sometimes there's a simple solution for complex problems, and the only thing that is remaining is to be able to do it. I warned you, Dominic. He put the central issue at hand. Complex issues are generally solved with simple solutions. But I would also like to add a little bit of an additional point in my question to you. A little time ago, Viana commented how relevant it is to go from the communities in the Amazon and inside the Amazon. Communities have a very specific need that are obviously not the same between each other. So when Bia and Saulo are documenting, you who are working in this whole, the most renowned Fraunhofer, and looking at the global productive chains, where you say, I need technology, I need innovation, if I understand, to smarten the process. How do you see these innovations in your solutions?
Yes, it's a good question. Let's give for this, for example, a short example. For 1-2 years, we were starting a project in Africa where we modernize agriculture projects. The problem was there that we modernized the farms in the agriculture farms in Africa on a level where it also was important that the knowledge increased by the farmer to use this kind of agricultural systems. And the problem was there in the beginning, they get the instruction and then they said, okay, here, please take this kind of farm, the new modern agriculture farm, and we leave the place. Yeah. The problem after 3-6 months was that after 6 months there was this kind of scientists and technologists and engineers coming back. They were seeing all the fishes with the belly swimming up to the air, and they were saying, "Hey guys, what happens here?" And they say, "Yeah, we don't know what happens here, but now all the fishes are dead." They say, "Yeah, okay, that's the problem. What happens here?" And after many talks to them, there was getting the information that the fish feed ants, and they're starting to feed the fishes with cat feed. Yeah. So that was a really big problem, of course, but the cat feed was not for this kind of fish type. And that was this kind of problem was starting to rethinking our project where we stay, for example, in Tanzania, where we want to build up a hatchery to say, okay, how we can track important informations like temperature from the water, pH, and so on, and also the feeding status and also the grooming status. Yeah, we're saying, hey, we have so many sheep sensors, so we can put them in the farms. In one way, we do a lifetime traction of the starter, and on another way, we're helping them to understand what the data means, also in the grooming rate of this kind of fish type. So you have a control mechanism. You can directly teach them what that means, yeah. And 100% to manage 1 kilo fish is not so hard to manage when you increase this to 100 times more, yeah. So you need really lifetime data. And we were seeing there, okay, how you can helping them was also to say, okay, when we digitalize this process and teaching them in the same processes, so that they get a better understanding how they need to manage the farm when you increase the fish biomass in a farm. And that was for us a really helping tools to see, okay, when we get enough data, we put them on a platform and have the control mechanisms and also the teacher mechanisms. That is an example what I want to give, yeah, to create tools one way that you can control this kind of information, But I think the biggest problem is not that we have not enough food on the world or resources. Of course, it's a question about the region and availability of resources and product where you have it in a global world. Yeah, and there can our technologies and platforms can help to get a better traction in which time you need resources, for example, to feed the fishes. Yeah, and that the ordering starts before the fish farmer knows that the feed ends. You know, but that he have it then on the farm when the fish need it. And this kind of digitalization, the processes to all the stakeholders, can really a helpful security tool to see where you need the resources, where you need the products, and to build also platforms. And on the same time, when you see where is the knowledge lack, by they managing the farm, for example, not correct, or you need to put there more teaching inside. Also, there's many different kind of ways how you can use the technology on a helpful ways. One way is, of course, the security, safety, teaching, and so on. And I think the point is that we need to open our platforms to each other and to see how we can, how the data can flow to the different kind of stakeholders and how we can connect this kind of data. And that is a really big point. We were seeing in some projects, for example, in Africa, it can work. Yeah, so the Wi-Fi or the internet, for example, is in Tanzania or in state where we was active, not the problem. So that was more or less the question: how we can use this kind of new technology in action to the production systems there. That is a helpful tool. And for example, in Tanzania, the interest on this kind of technology also to get smart hatcheries that they can produce their own fishes also for the neighbor farmers enough that they can increase the biomass. The interest is there really high. The question is how we can transform end of the day the technology, for example, also to the Amazonas, and connect it also to the production system that you need all the time, which kind of resources the needs is there. And that is a really nice security tool.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for this kind of answer. You done a fantastic answer, but you didn't answer my question. But that's okay. Yeah, I think to difficult question, you have a lot of answers. And if I would give now the word to Burkhard, we will hear 2 hours about RIS system and how they can improve all your problems that you have. But I will not do this question. Yeah. So in this moment, I would ask Burkhard a different question. My question is, Burkhard, the following. You hear this discussion, and you see that the terms of solutions are quite different in the channel and are quite different from the issue getting from bottom up. Do you think that international investors are seeing that as an opportunity, or it's too complicated and they want to see things that works in a different way?
Investors, are they interested to do in this kind of invest in this kind of solutions? Yes. Why? Because we have, and we as Colossal Fish is working on a kind of a platform where we can going to digitalize processes. That means we are able to put, let's give an example, a project. This project will be analyzed, will be digitalized in the contracts. The contracts will be then into receiving a token. We call this tokenization of processes. This kind of tokenizations is then available on the funding market, private capital market. The private capital market is the most available market for resources to get funds for this kind of projects. And this kind of tokenization is the new key, Xavi, to realize this kind of interesting project. It's independently, if it's in Amazonas, if it's in south of Brazil, it's in Africa, and anywhere. If we have a standardized process that we have digitalized this, and we have a contract, we have a completely transparent of this point. And once this is this project is digitalized. You can never change it. So all the information what is inside, all the contract is inside, it's fixed. Then you can sell these kinds of assets on the market. This market, you can sell it at the Bolsa in Brazil, you can sell it in the Bolsa in New York, anywhere. So, and now is this point, you have in this moment an access to capital to raise for this kind of interesting projects. Besides this, when we're talking about this tokenization, there's a lot of access of potential available in the market, the cryptos financings. What do they need? They need to have assets. They need to have to be transformed from a digital form into reality. And this is now the moment where we have to concentrate us. We need to have this platform. We have to standardize the processes and to fund this kind of projects. I hope I answered your questions.
Absolutely, and it was surprising for me. It was very surprising for me. We will get in this discussion. Desculpe, eu vou trocar de novo para o português, se me permitirem. Eu queria prestigiar, Bia, se você me permite, esse público que na
Just want to acknowledge this crowd who is here on a Friday at 6 p.m. with us. And Dominique is 5 hours ahead of us. So, you know, he's not even, he should be sleeping by now or celebrating his Friday. So I just want to acknowledge those who are here, and I want to open this up to questions. So, Henrique Gazilasso, are you here? Henrique?
Passarinho do meu lado
a little birdie next to me told me that you are the head of rural development of the OECD, and you know that Brazil wants to be a part of the OECD. We are preparing ourselves for this. So I would just love to hear some comments from you. Please.
I will switch to English because I tried to speak in Spanish the other day and it was not easy. No, it's a very interesting discussion. I think I'll make a couple of statements, you know, because the problem of food security is also very important for the OECD, and I'm glad the panel touched upon the war in Ukraine and the implications that has for food security. I think, you know, things are changing very fast right now. Some years ago, we had a project with the FAO on food security, and we worked on a territorial approach to food security, because I think something that is very important is that all of these systems are interconnected. One is the problem of the supply of food. We heard about Mesa de Brazil. Incomes of people are also very relevant to food security. So building up infrastructures or building up skills are also quite relevant. So it was a very interesting project. And we did 6 case studies in Africa and also in Peru and Colombia. So we have a very interesting report where we try to think about food security as a holistic approach. And I think that's something very important to keep in mind, that it's not just one trigger or another trigger, but it's an integrated approach that we need to think. And geography in the space offers that integration and that holistic, because that's where people, firms, food is produced. So I think it's important to keep that in mind on the topic of food security. Now, I don't want to be the one that gets called off by not answering to your question. So Brazil is currently in the accession process. There's 6 countries in the accession. There is Peru, there is Brazil, there is Bulgaria, there is Romania, and Argentina has dropped off. So I think, you know, we're very excited to have Brazil, because the OECD many years ago was the first world club of first world countries, and that represented about 80% of GDP. Of course, after time, Developing countries increased more, and then the OECD was about 55%. So I think there was a big change inside the OECD to open up, to allow, especially if we want to be relevant for global issues. So there was a big push to support membership. And for many years, there's been a push to get Brazil inside. And now we're very close. I've been following the accession country for many years. And in fact, I will be involved into that into the next year. So we're very much looking forward. And that's also one of the reasons that I came here, to learn more from these types of initiatives in Green Rio. And I think if you show leadership in topics like sustainability, that's going to be really, really good for not the accession, but also in Latin America. So I'll stop here.
So thank you very, very much, Enrique, and very much for your statement. And I understood that you are also looking how the civil society is reacting over issues, and you see here leadership doing that, and they have solutions. So I appreciate so much that you will approve Brazil and approve Peru, and the others, of course, I don't know, but thank you so much for that. Alguém outro ainda queria fazer uma pergunta?
Does anybody else have a question
Por
here?
favor.
Please. Julia.
Pick up the phone in English.
Júlia, você pode pegar o microfone?
So, in the beginning, you talked
Então,
about fishing and finding sustainable ways how to do it, and that fishing were in the beginning a kind of work to get out of poverty. Now I'm asking myself, you were talking about this funding and sustainability stuff, but for me it sounds like it's just for commercial fishing. How about the small business? How can they do it?
Good question, Julia. Thank you. No, just kidding. No, this is a good point. Our structure, our idea is, the concept of course, of fish is to integrate small and mid-sized farmers. With this kind of tokenization, what I mean, this funding point, we give them the access of funds, what they don't have. If they wanted to try to have access to governmental funds, or anything, they are restricted. So mostly of the small farmers and the mid-sized farmers want to evaluate their own business and want to have it very fast. And we want to collect these small farmers together in a kind of corporation, and then they can grow up in the corporation. And the idea of the RUS system is a decentralized production. So that means where the demand is. We bring out and take out, for instance, of the rural area where the small arts, bring them to the cities or near to the cities and building centers to produce the fish or send them out. With this system as well, we give them the access to the international market, which they are not so. But it means this democratization of fish farming in short terms. Okay?
Muito obrigado. Eu vou passar para o Saulo. Essa mesma pergunta.
Thank you. I'm going to pass the floor to Saulo now. Yeah, I think it's interesting, Julia. I had heard about you, of course. I think it's interesting because we are located in a region of very small traditional fishing communities that fish a local species called aratu. Actually, it's a small crab that is very, very tasty. And the sururu, which is more common. We have a big dilemma here. We, of course, see the excessive farming of shrimp that is destroying the local environments, and many of us ignore this. So it doesn't make any sense for us to have this large-scale development of fishing. People need to understand how to consume local products with added value. And in Brazil, many times we think that these things that come from traditional communities need to be cheap because they are done by poor people. So everyone wants to eat aratu, but they want to pay a low amount of money for this. So we need to think about our identity here. And this is a problem in South America, this low self-esteem. You know, when I show my Brazilian passport, when I travel around the world, people smile at me. And people love us, but we don't know how to value our country. You know, we want to go live in Miami or something, which I would say is a kind of caricature of something that did not work out. So we need to have this self-esteem, understand that the local chains need to supply everything that we need in essence. And of course, there's a scale problem here, a sustainability problem here. And it really concerns me, you know, how this small-scale fishing that is done, it's really a lot of work. Never go find aratua. It's a lot of hard work. And I feel like society really disrespects these traditional food cultures and producers. Thank you very much. Bia, would you like to ask a question here? Yes, I would like to ask Cida, actually all of you, out of everything we have heard here, and I want to ask our audience this too. Well, I'm going to direct the question here to Ingo, who started this table. I'm almost ordering a caipirinha here so we can continue the talk. Yes, let's get that caipirinha. Don't you think that from here, you know, Saulo and everybody else, I've talked to Cida about this a lot. A proposal of public policies, a real proposal that is more objective based on what we talked about here. A proposal to be taken to our government.
But for OCDE as well, I don't want to, you know, use your presence here, Enrique, but, you know, we have Van Hofen, we have OECD and IICA and Fernando. You could make this come true. An objective proposal, because we talk about combating hunger, but I always say that Mesa Brasil is a government program or a state program. And Saulo has raised the issue also. Buchmann is a professor, what he wrote here, not mentioning Ingo, that's a visionary and had the idea for this panel. I have zero merits in this panel. I'm here just clapping my hands, but it's not possible, Julia, and all of you who have stuck here with us so far, that from this encounter, from this joint forces, we can't come up with a proposal. It's very serious. These people can't wait anymore. It's obvious. The solution is obvious. It's an easy solution. Dominic, Fernando, it's not possible that from here we can't get a paper issued. Let me get Bia's provocation here and ask that each one of you try to reflect and give her an answer and maybe make a final comment. I would like to respect each one of your times that stayed here on Friday, and I would like to make this the final round, if you allow me. I would like to start in Germany in terms of time zones, and have the more time zone to start with his Friday caipirinha. So Dominic, if you could please start again, and then I will give the floor to Fernando.
Yes, thank you. To go shortly, also for my ending, to this question from this young woman, really good question, but we have here a really good example in Bangladesh where we build up a system directly connected to really small farmers. We want to interact end of the days over 2 million farmers on our platform. We build up their accounting system, which they can use directly on the shrimps farms. It's about shrimps. And they can use it directly on the farm, and it's a really stable system which is connected to a platform. And the nice one here, we was interacting here, for example, directly with the security, with the government to see, okay, how we can bring them, this kind of farmers, but they are really important in Bangladesh for the mangrove, how we can interact with them, that they have a product which we can bring to the European Union. And then we get a list from question from the government how our technology needs to build up, that this kind of connection can build up. Yeah, now we're starting next year with the first test farms. And the nice one is here, this kind of 2 million farmers, they are really important for the ecosystems in Bangladesh to stabilize the mangrove. Yeah, and so we have here a win-win situation. We bring over the technology, they can directly sell the shrimps on stage there, live, connected them to our system, and they get directly a pay. So we directly buy it on this place, as it's connected to an industry partner, of course, and you get here a win-win situation. The people see directly the plus on the account, yeah, and have directly upselling to Europe, and we increase the money on a bank account. And we have a nice ecosystem effect. This kind of farmers are really important for Bangladesh, for the mangrove. Without them, they get really big problems there with the mangrove. So the Bangladesh government itself have a really big interest, this kind of technology interaction, that this groove and that the farmer uses. I think that is a really, really good example that technology in the right way of thinking how you can use them on this kind of farms and which kind of development and how easy they need to be that they can use it. You can do it everywhere on the world. It's all the time the question which kind of problems the stakeholder have to use this kind of technology and how you can build up the interactions that also small farmers have the power to use this kind of technology. And that is, end of the day, only a question how you want to interact there and how you can help them, and what Burkhard was saying, it's the best on. End of the day, it's need to be also upsell from the ecosystem helps a win-win situation on a bank account, and the technology can help in this kind of way really good, that they directly get this kind of prices which they need to have also a plus, and not only to use this kind of technology, sondern also to get a contact to a market what vorher was not happens.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Thank you so much for this contribution. Fernando, se você puder fazer suas considerações, por favor.
Bom, eu queria concluir dizendo que nós estamos trabalhando muito com países nos 4 temas que eu iniciei, e que isso muitas vezes depende dos próprios países e de blocos. A não restrição de comércio de alimentos, ou não barreiras em comércio de alimentos. Isso é uma questão fundamental se a gente for falar de segurança alimentar. Então, inclusive agora no mês que vem tem uma reunião da ABAG em Montevideo, justamente trabalhando, e as Américas têm trabalhado muito bloco perante outros continentes, também,
continents such as Europe to try to remove barriers for food commerce because it impacts directly the food security topic. And the second, commercialization and the price of fertilizers. We are helping several countries in the construction of public policies for produce bio inputs, biofertilizers, biofactories. And this for us, so that we are not completely dependent of importing fertilizers. For example, Brazil imports 85% of their fertilizers.
Países como que importam mais de 60%,
that import over 60%, Peru, Ecuador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Suriname, that import over 60% of their fertilizers.
Então, a IICA tem ajudado,
IICA has helped, by demand of the countries, in construction of public policies to consolidate plans, national plans for the production of bioresources. And I think the acceleration of the price of commodities, this is, I believe, the gentleman from the OCDE is a holistic topic, so one thing starts attaching to the other to create impact and the growth of the energy matrix. As a few final inputs, I would like to say that the food security nowadays is at the top of the global agenda, and agriculture is an instrument for peace. And I think Minister Roberto Rodriguez said what brings the countryside and the city together is food. And agriculture is a part of the solution for this problem. And it has done its share of work. We have to look at the public policies of access to these foods. America is an insurer of food security all over the world. From here, there's a large part of the more than 800 million people outside depend on what we produce. If we add Americans, it's much more. And this is just a little provocation to reflect if the environmental aspects will be left behind in our discussion for food security. In our vision, no. Even though some countries started flexibilizing, no, because the climate change is something that is going to impact agriculture and needs to be worked on. Thank you very much, Ingo, for the participation, and count on me whenever you need, whatever you need. Just to end, we have an observatory for public policies that was built this year, and that is a hub that can, it's called OPSA. I can give you the link, but it's an observatory of what the countries are doing in terms of public policies for agriculture, including the food security topic. This is available on the internet, and all the data from all the American countries, South Americans, of what countries are doing in terms of public policies. Thank you very much. Big hugs to everyone.
Contribuição, por tua espera e, como sempre, como um grande entusiasta, mas com visões. Isso nós precisamos muito nas nossas Américas. Muito obrigado por isso. Passo a palavra ao Burkhard, por favor.
Então, vamos fazer... eu tenho um sonho. Esse sonho é uma coisa, eu quero que nós fazemos uma roadmap junto. Uma roadmap para fazer uma próxima follow-up meeting. A gente não vai esperar até um ano que vem, ou para o AI, do Encontro Econômico Brasil-Alemanha. Vamos fazer nos próximos tempos. Agora nós estava uma das primeiras momentos, nós trocamos nossas ideias, porque todos têm um sonho, todos têm que procurar por umas soluções. Os chaves para resolver essas soluções já existem, estão disponíveis. A gente só precisa colocar junto e fazer uma roadmap conjunto e fazer uma próximos steps. Que, como você está falando, certo? Nós temos ITAC, nós temos Fraunhofer, nós temos CEAL, nós temos Mesa do Brasil, Bia e você, Ingo. Sim, claro, também. E nós temos uma potência nós temos um pensamento igual. Que a gente vamos resolver uma coisa, vamos criar uma ideia, criar umas soluções. Esse é o meu sonho.
We have a dream. Muito bom.
I have a dream, yes.
Yes, we have a dream. E um sonho compartilhado, ele vira visão. E isso é muito importante expressar. Cida, por favor, seja sucinta, se possível. Tá?
Com certeza. Eu fico emocionada, porque assim, a gente também tem um sonho de ver um mundo melhor, de imaginar que agora não teria ninguém morrendo de fome, que não teria ninguém necessitando do nosso auxílio. E poder me sentir acolhida e entender que juntos somos mais, eu acho que é o caminho mesmo. Obrigada.
Saulo.
Bom, primeiro a Bia me pediu para pensar um projeto de governo para um anarquista. Isso pode até soar ofensivo, mas como eu gosto muito dela, eu vou entender que foi um equívoco de colocação. Mas eu ia propor exatamente isso, Burkhardt. Eu ia propor, na verdade, que a gente tivesse um encontro real de trabalho. Eu estou aqui em nome de Saulo, mas na verdade eu represento o IPTI, que é essa instituição que faz esse trabalho lá. E eu acho que se a gente quer salvar o mundo, quer ajudar o mundo, tem que ir para a capital mundial das tecnologias sociais. Então, eu acho que temos aqui o IICA, a Fraunhofer, até a OCDE para financiar esse encontro lá em Santa Luzia do Itaim. Eu acho que a gente não pode perder essas oportunidades de financiadores que estão aqui presentes. E a ideia, eu acho que tem que ser bem pragmática, né? Bom, o IPTI pode entrar pragmaticamente com a caipirinha e com o aratu, o que já é, por si só, motivo suficiente para estimular as pessoas a irem para lá. Mas o que eu acho mais importante, pegando a sua provocação, Bia, é que a gente possa pegar todas as experiências que a gente tem aqui, todas essas organizações que nós temos aqui, e a gente tentar construir uma política de sociedade, não de governo nem de Estado, mas de sociedade, em que a gente possa, com a visão privada, com a visão humana que nós temos de comunidade, com o potencial tecnológico de uma Fraunhofer, com o potencial de escala e de representatividade do IICA, etc., a gente possa sair de lá com um plano de ação. E eu acho que essa é a coisa. Mas minha sugestão é que isso aconteça em Santa Luzia do Itaim. Tá?
Olha, eu não imaginava um final desses. Eu não imaginava. Não tenho nada mais acrescentado do que fazer parte desse sonho.
But to be a part of this
E que
dream,
estiver à minha disposição,
and whatever I can
conte
do,
comigo. Eu
count
acho
on
que
me for it. And I think you can count on all of you who have stayed here with an ending like
Green
this.
Rio
And Green Rio
alento de
is
esperança para
a
aqueles
breath
que
of
não
hope
têm tempo.
brought
E
to
para
those who
aqueles
have
que
no
lá na
time
frente querem ter
and those who want to have a brighter future ahead of them.
Muitíssimo obrigado.
So thank you
a todos
very, very
vocês.
much to all of you.
Só acho, Ingo, que
I
na
just
posição de
think
líder
that
da
Ingo,
mesa,
as a
você podia
position, the
terminar
leader
isso
of
já
the team, you
definindo
could
a
end
data.
it defining the date for the
Porque
event.
senão fica vazio. Né?
Otherwise, it's kind of like up in the air. I cannot define a date because I'm not the host. He is the host, so he has to set the date, right? Please say it.
Eu acho
Say
que o
when.
começo de dezembro seria muito bom.
The start of
Eu
December
acho
would
que
be a great
um
moment.
momento,
It's
digamos, de temperatura elevada para quem vem da
high
Alemanha.
temperature for people
Então,
who
acho que é um
come
momento de
from
muito
Germany, so
calor
I think
humano
there's
para a gente poder
a lot of
discutir
human
sobre o
heat,
Itaim.
so
Eu
that
vou
we
olhar
can
a data,
discuss
mando por
things.
e-mail o melhor
And I'll
possível
send you
para vocês
by
depois.
email so that you can program, okay? There you go. We have a date, we have dreams, and we have sharing. So I would like to thank you very, very much to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, that stayed here with us today,
Nossos palestrantes, aqueles que
to our speakers who have been far away and those who are close and who are thinking so far ahead. And I would like to also make a little homage to our master leader. Yesterday, a book was released in São Paulo called Reputation and Shared Value. If anybody has reputation here, that's Bia. She's a leader with great reputation and that deserves this book that was written by Tatiana Mayalins and Elisa Prado, who you might be familiar with. Both autographed it for Bia, this book, so here it is. Thank you. A round of applause.
Ai, meu Deus.
Você quer fechar?
Eu quero só agradecer a todo mundo de novo.
The translation booth is finishing up for the day, as we were hired to stay until 6 p.m. and it is now 6:38. We hope you understand. I think they're finishing up anyway.